Have you ever seen a man who has everything in life, yet his heart is empty like a dry well? That was the story of Chief Fred Rowland, one of the richest men in the city. His mansion was so big that 10 families could live inside, but the walls carried only silence. No laughter, no music, no warmth. Only memories of what once was. Hey, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Kindly support this channel by subscribing, liking our video, and hit the bell icon. Let's go. 5 years ago, Chief Rowland lost the love of his life, Madame Kate Rowland, to a severe sickness. Her death broke him into pieces. Even though he had money, doctors, and the best hospitals, nothing could save her. Since that day, his mansion became a lonely palace. He had all the cars, all the servants, and all the wealth, but at night he sat alone in his large living room, staring at Kate's picture on the wall. His only comfort was his daughter, Princess Rowland. She was young, full of life, and carried her mother's gentle smile. Chief Rowland tried to hide his pain whenever she was around, but deep inside, he knew his mansion had turned into an empty shell. Wealth was everywhere, yet peace and happiness were missing. They say a man can forget riches, but he can never forget true love. For Chief Fred Rowland, every corner of his mansion still carried the sweet memories of his late wife, Madame Kate. Her voice was gone, but he could still hear her laughter echoing in the wide halls. Her perfume was no more, yet sometimes, in the quiet of the night, he swore he could smell it in the air. Kate was not just a wife. She was his strength, his advisor, and his best friend. She came from a humble home, yet her wisdom was greater than many who grew up with gold. She knew how to speak softly and calm Chief Rowland even when the storms of business threatened to break him. Whenever he felt weak, Kate's words gave him courage. Whenever pride tried to rise in him, Kate's humility pulled him back to earth. Now that she was gone, Chief Rowland often sat in her favorite chair, holding the scarf she used to wear. Many nights he wept silently, asking himself why money could not save the one person he truly needed. His heart ached, but there was nothing he could do. Kate was gone forever, leaving behind only her daughter as a living memory. When a man loses everything, he holds on tight to the little that is left. For Chief Fred Rowland, his only treasure was his daughter, Princess Rowland. She was the shining light in his dark world, the one gift Kate left behind before leaving this earth. Princess was not only beautiful, but she also carried the same kindness that her mother had. Her smile could soften even the hardest of hearts. From the way she spoke, to the way she treated people around her, anyone could see Madame Kate living again through her. Even the house staff loved her because, unlike many rich children, Princess never looked down on them. She would often sit in the kitchen, laughing with the cooks, or help the cleaners arrange flowers in the garden. Chief Rowland, though rich, was afraid. He feared losing his daughter the way he lost his wife. Many nights he would walk into her room just to check if she was still breathing peacefully in her sleep. Princess noticed his pain, but she also knew she must remain strong, for herself and for her father. To Chief Rowland, she was not just a daughter. She was the last piece of his broken heart. Sometimes, in the place of comfort, danger hides with a smile. Chief Fred Rowland's secretary, Miss Clara, was one of those smiles. She was smart, hardworking, and always dressed in neat office suits. To outsiders, she looked like a loyal woman who cared for her boss. But deep inside her heart, Clara carried an ambition that was bigger than her job. After the death of Madame Kate, Clara began to draw closer to Chief Rowland. She would prepare his schedules with extra care, bring him tea with a warm smile, and sometimes stay late in the office just to keep him company. Chief Rowland, tired and lonely, began to notice her. He thought maybe it was destiny. Maybe the secretary was the answer to his empty nights. But Princess Rowland did not trust Clara. She watched the way Clara's eyes sparkled whenever she entered the mansion. She noticed how Clara tried too hard to impress her father, laughing at every word he said. Princess felt something was not right, but she kept quiet. After all, how could she speak against a woman who looked so perfect on the outside? The mansion that was once filled with silence now carried whispers of a new closeness, one that could either heal Chief Roland's heart or destroy it completely. Love is like fire. When it begins, it starts as a small spark, but if not controlled, it can burn a whole forest. That was how the whispers of new love started between Chief Fred Roland and his secretary, Clara. First, it was innocent. A compliment here, a thank you smile there. But soon, it grew into late-night talks and secret looks that nobody else understood. In the office, Clara began to walk with more confidence, as if she already owned the place. She answered calls with a sweet tone and even corrected other staff with the boldness of a woman who believed she was more than a secretary. People began to talk in low voices. "Chief is falling for his worker," they murmured. Some said it was normal, after all, the man was lonely. Others shook their heads, saying it was shameful for such a great man to lose himself in the arms of a woman who only loved his wealth. Princess Roland watched everything with worry in her heart. She respected her father, but she could see clearly what he could not. Clara was not in love with him. She was in love with his money and his power. Princess knew if she kept quiet, disaster would come. But how could she prove it without hurting her father's feelings? The whispers of love grew louder, but behind those whispers, danger was hiding, waiting for the right time to show its face. Wise men do not rush into decisions, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. Chief Fred Roland was rich, but he was not blind. He could see that Clara, his secretary, was beautiful and caring, but deep inside, something troubled him. He remembered how his late wife, Kate, always said, "Do not choose a woman by her smile, choose her by her character." Those words stayed in his heart like fire on dry wood. One quiet evening, Chief Roland called his daughter, Princess, to his study. The girl sat down, curious, while her father spoke slowly. "My daughter, I feel Clara wants more than just a job. But before I take any step, I must be sure of the kind of woman she truly is. Will you help me?" Princess agreed without hesitation. She also had doubts about Clara, and now was the chance to reveal the truth. Together, father and daughter planned a secret test. Princess would disguise herself as a poor cleaner in Clara's neighborhood. If Clara was truly kind, she would treat the cleaner well. But if her heart was full of pride, her true colors would come out. Chief Roland wanted to see it with his own eyes, even if it broke his heart. The stage was set. A game of truth was about to begin, one that would decide the future of the Roland family. Sometimes, to know the heart of a person, you must remove riches and power from the picture. That was exactly what Princess Roland prepared to do. With her father's blessing, she removed her fine clothes, her jewelry, and her royal shoes. She dressed in an old gown, tied a simple scarf on her head, and wore cheap slippers that made her look like any ordinary house girl. When she looked at herself in the mirror, even she could not believe the change. The rich, polished daughter of Chief Roland had disappeared. In her place stood a poor, humble cleaner. With a mop in her hand and a bucket by her side, she was ready to begin the test that could change her father's future forever. Clara, the secretary, had no idea who this new cleaner was. She only saw a girl who had come to work and serve. The first day Princess entered Clara's compound, she greeted politely with a bow, "Good morning, madam," but Clara did not even look at her properly. She only hissed and pointed at the dirty floor, saying, "Go and clean that place before you waste my time." The test had started, and it was clear that Clara's heart would soon be exposed, whether she liked it or not. The first encounter between two people can reveal more than 1,000 words. For Princess Roland, now disguised as a poor cleaner, her very first meeting with Clara was like stepping into a storm. She had expected coldness, but she did not imagine the fire of insult that would follow. On that morning, Princess arrived early, carrying her bucket and mop. With a gentle smile, she greeted, "Good morning, madam. Where should I begin my work?" Instead of returning the greeting, Clara frowned deeply. She eyed the girl from head to toe and laughed mockingly. "So this is the dirty thing they sent to me? Look at her slippers. Look at her weak hands. I doubt you can even wash one plate properly." Princess felt the sting of those words, but she kept her head low. She remembered her father's warning, "Endure, my daughter, until the truth is clear." So she quietly carried her mop and began to clean. But Clara was not satisfied. She purposely poured water on the floor again and shouted, "Didn't you see this place? Are you blind? Must I teach you how to clean?" The humiliation was bitter, yet Princess remained calm. That day proved what she had suspected all along. Behind Clara's sweet smiles was a heart filled with pride and cruelty. A mask can only cover a person's true face for a short time. When the moment of truth comes, the mask falls away. For Clara, the secretary, her mask of kindness quickly began to crack. Each day the disguised princess came to work. Clara showed less patience and more wickedness. She would deliberately scatter things on the floor and command, "Cleaner, pick that up now." If the poor girl moved slowly, Clara slapped the table and shouted, "Are you deaf? Move faster." Sometimes, she even threw dirty clothes at her face, saying, "Wash these well, or I will send you away like the useless thing you are." The neighbors around noticed her behavior. They shook their heads and whispered among themselves, "How can a woman be this proud? If she treats a cleaner like this, how will she treat her husband?" They asked. But Clara did not care. In her heart, she believed she was already on her way to becoming Madame Roland, the billionaire's wife. She looked at herself in the mirror every night and smiled, dreaming of wealth, luxury, and power. But what Clara could not see was that her wickedness was slowly digging a grave for her dreams. The true colors of her heart were shining so brightly that even strangers could see them. In life, whenever darkness grows too strong, God always sends a light. That light came in the form of Jane, Clara's neighbor. Jane was a young, single woman, beautiful but humble, and known by everyone in the area for her good heart. She was not rich, but she carried something money could not buy: kindness. One hot afternoon, Jane came out of her house and saw Clara shouting at the poor cleaner, who was really Princess in disguise. Clara had poured dirty water on the floor just to punish her and was yelling, "Useless girl! You can't even clean properly. Why are you wasting my time?" The sight touched Jane deeply. Without thinking twice, she walked across the compound and stood between Clara and the cleaner. "Madam Clara," Jane said boldly, "this is not fair. She is only doing her job. Why treat her like an animal?" Clara hissed and rolled her eyes. "Jane, stay out of my business. This stupid girl is lazy and deserves to be punished." But Jane stood firm, her eyes burning with courage. "No, nobody deserves to be treated this way. Respect is for every human being, whether rich or poor." That moment was the beginning of a new friendship between Jane and the disguised princess. In Jane's kindness, Princess saw hope. And in Jane's courage, Clara met the first person brave enough to challenge her pride. Every house has two faces, the one people see outside, and the one hidden behind closed doors. For Clara, her outside face was sweet and polished, but behind the closed doors of her home, shameful behavior was her true master. Whenever visitors came around, Clara welcomed them with smiles, sweet words, and gentle laughter. She pretended to be the perfect lady, soft, respectful, and cultured. Many people believed she was truly fit to be the wife of a rich man like Chief Roland. But once the visitors left and the doors were shut, her voice became sharp like a knife. She would shout at the cleaner without mercy, insult her with bitter words, and order her around like a slave. Princess, still in disguise, endured it all quietly. Each time Clara shouted, she remembered her father's words, "Endure, my daughter, until the truth is clear." But Jane, the kind neighbor, could not understand why the poor cleaner never spoke back. "Why do you allow her to disgrace you like this?" Jane asked one evening. Princess only smiled and said, "Sometimes silence speaks louder than noise." Little did Clara know that her shameful behavior behind closed doors was slowly writing the story of her downfall. The same doors she used to hide her cruelty would soon open wide, and the whole world would see her true face. Patience is a weapon many do not understand. It looks weak, but in the end, it wins battles that strength cannot. That was the secret of the poor cleaner, who was truly Princess Roland in disguise. Day after day, Clara insulted her, mocked her, and even kicked her when she was angry. "Lazy thing, you cannot even sweep properly. If not that I pity you, I would have sent you away long ago," Clara would say with scorn. But no matter the humiliation, the cleaner never complained. She bowed her head, did her work quietly, and left without a word. The neighbors often whispered among themselves, "This girl is too calm. Why doesn't she ever fight back? Why doesn't she leave this wicked woman?" Some thought she was foolish. Others believed she was simply too poor to risk losing the little job she had. Only Jane, the kind neighbor, looked deeper. She sensed there was something unusual about the girl's silence, something hidden behind her calm face. Meanwhile, Clara grew more arrogant. The cleaner's silence made her believe she had total power over her. She did not know that the same silence she despised was gathering strength, waiting for the right moment to speak louder than all her insults. Not every secret can remain hidden for long. The eyes of a wise neighbor often see what others miss. Jane, the kind neighbor, had been watching the poor cleaner closely, and slowly, her heart began to suspect something unusual. Unlike other house girls, this cleaner spoke politely and carried herself with quiet dignity. Even in rags, she walked with the grace of someone who had been trained in a higher home. Her English was too clear, her manners too refined, and her smile too gentle to belong to just any ordinary servant. Jane would often say to herself, "There is more to this girl than what meets the eye." One evening, after Clara had gone out, Jane invited the cleaner into her small sitting room. She offered her food and said softly, "My sister, forgive me, but you don't look like someone who was born into suffering. Who are you, really?" The cleaner only smiled and shook her head. "I am just a girl working to survive," she replied humbly. Jane did not press further, but the suspicion in her heart grew stronger. She decided to protect the girl quietly, even without knowing her true identity. For Jane believed that one day, the truth would come out. And when it did, Clara would surely regret her wickedness. When cruelty becomes too heavy, even the strongest heart can break. But sometimes, a helping hand arrives just in time to rescue the weak. That was how Jane stepped in to defend the poor cleaner again. One Saturday morning, Clara returned from shopping in a foul mood. She had argued with a trader at the market, and she came home boiling with anger. Without reason, she poured all that anger on the cleaner. "You lazy thing!" she shouted, throwing her handbag on the floor. "Why is this place not shining like glass? Are you waiting for me to clean it for you?" The cleaner bent down quickly to pick up the bag, but Clara kicked her hard on the leg. The girl staggered back in pain, but still, she did not answer. Just then, Jane, who had been watching from her balcony, rushed down. She stood in front of the cleaner and shouted, "Enough, Clara! Must you always use her to quench your anger? She is a human being like you. Why treat her like dirt?" Clara hissed and turned away, embarrassed. But for the first time, the cleaner's eyes shone with unshed tears. She whispered softly, "Thank you, Jane. May God bless you." At that moment, a bond of true friendship was sealed. Jane had rescued not just a poor girl, but a humble heart that was silently carrying a heavy secret. Life has a way of bringing people together at the right time, even when they least expect it. For Jane, the kind neighbor, her moment of truth came through an introduction she never saw coming. One quiet evening, After another long day of enduring Clara's insults, the cleaner knocked gently on Jane's door. Jane welcomed her in with a smile and offered her a plate of food. But this time, the cleaner did not eat in silence. She looked at Jane with grateful eyes and said softly, "You have defended me more than once. Not everyone would risk standing against Clara for someone like me. You deserve to know who I really am." Jane's eyes widened with curiosity, but she remained calm. The cleaner slowly untied her scarf, letting her long, shiny hair fall freely. She straightened her back and spoke with the quiet confidence of someone born into greatness. "I am Princess Roland, the only daughter of Chief Fred Roland." Jane almost dropped her spoon in shock. "You? The billionaire's daughter? But why disguise yourself like this?" The princess smiled gently. "Because my father wanted to test Clara's true character before making her part of our family. And you, Jane, have shown a heart that money cannot buy." That unexpected introduction would change Jane's life forever. Truth is like the sun. It cannot be hidden for long. After days of watching Clara's wickedness and Jane's kindness, the time finally came for the truth to meet Chief Fred Roland face to face. One evening, Princess returned to the mansion without her cleaner's rags. She wore a simple but elegant dress and walked with the dignity of the billionaire's daughter she truly was. Beside her was Jane, nervous but curious, holding her handbag tightly. The guards at the gate bowed immediately when they saw Princess. Jane's heart almost stopped. Now she fully understood the weight of what her new friend had revealed. Inside the grand sitting room, Chief Roland sat waiting. When he saw his daughter, he rose with a warm smile. Princess hugged him, then turned to Jane. "Father," she said softly, "this is Jane, the neighbor who defended me when Clara treated me like dirt. She is the reason I was not broken during this test." Chief Roland looked at Jane with eyes full of gratitude. He stretched his hand and said, "My daughter speaks highly of you. Any friend who protects her is also my friend. You are welcome in this home." Jane bowed respectfully, still struggling to believe what was happening. At that moment, a new chapter of destiny opened. The poor neighbor had just stepped into the mansion of wealth, face to face with the man whose life she was about to change. Pride may rise like a mountain, but one day, it must fall like dust. That day finally came for Clara, the proud secretary who had dreamed of becoming Madame Roland. The next morning, Chief Roland invited Clara to the mansion. She walked in with her usual boldness, swinging her handbag, her mind filled with dreams of riches and power. She imagined herself sitting in Kate Roland's old chair, giving orders to the staff. But what waited for her was not a crown. It was disgrace. Inside the living room, she found Chief Roland, Princess dressed in her true royal self, and Jane seated quietly. Clara froze, confused. Before she could speak, Chief Roland's deep voice filled the room. "Clara, do you know this young lady?" he asked, pointing to Princess. Clara scoffed. "Of course, that useless cleaner? I warned her I would send her away soon." The words sealed her fate. Princess stood up and removed her scarf with grace. "Clara, I am no cleaner. I am Princess Roland, daughter of Chief Fred Roland, the same man you hope to marry." Clara's mouth fell open in shock. She staggered backward, speechless. Chief Roland's face hardened. "A woman who insults the poor can never sit beside me as a wife. From today, you are no longer my secretary. Leave this place and do not return." Clara's world collapsed in one moment. The same pride that lifted her dreams now dragged her into the dust of disgrace. When one star falls, another begins to shine. As Clara walked out in shame, the light of Jane's destiny quietly began to rise. Chief Roland turned to Jane with eyes full of respect. "Young lady," he said, "you had no reason to defend a poor cleaner, yet you stood with courage. You spoke when others were silent, and you showed kindness when cruelty filled the air. That is the kind of heart a true woman must carry." Jane bowed her head shyly, her cheeks warm with surprise. She had never imagined her simple act of compassion would bring her into the presence of such honor. From that day, Jane became more than just a neighbor to the Rowland family. Chief Rowland often invited her to the mansion, asking her opinion on family matters, listening to her gentle wisdom. The staff began to respect her, and even Princess grew closer to her as a sister and friend. Little by little, whispers began to spread. Could this humble young lady be the one to heal Chief Rowland's heart? The people asked. And though Jane never dreamed of such a future, destiny was already lifting her from her small compound to the place of greatness she never sought. Some weddings are remembered for food and music, but others are remembered for the story that led to them. The marriage of Chief Fred Rowland and Jane was a wedding like no other. On the chosen day, the city buzzed with excitement. Invitations had gone far and wide, and guests arrived in shining cars and colorful attires. The grand hall glittered with golden lights, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. Drummers beat joyfully at the entrance, dancers moved with energy, and everyone sang praises for the new couple. Jane walked into the hall dressed in a simple yet elegant gown that made her beauty shine brighter than diamonds. She carried no pride, only humility, and that was what touched every heart present. Chief Rowland stood tall beside her, his face glowing with the happiness he had not felt since the death of his beloved Kate. Princess Rowland, dressed in royal attire, walked proudly with her father, smiling at the woman who had now become her stepmother and friend. As the vows were exchanged, people whispered, "Truly, character is greater than beauty. See how God lifted a humble neighbor to become the wife of a billionaire." It was not just a wedding. It was a celebration of love, kindness, and destiny fulfilled. Every story carries a lesson, and the story of Chief Rowland, Clara, Jane, and Princess was no different. It showed clearly that beauty without character is like a flower without fragrance. It may look fine, but it brings no joy. Clara thought money and position could open the door to greatness, but her wicked heart pushed her out instead. She ended up wandering the streets, looking for another job, but none came her way. Those who once praised her now avoided her. Pride had lifted her high, but shame brought her down. On the other hand, Jane, who never sought wealth, found herself lifted by grace. Her kindness to a poor cleaner brought her into the arms of a billionaire. But even after her marriage, she remained humble, always remembering where she came from. She treated the staff with respect and taught others that true greatness is not measured by riches, but by how we treat those who have nothing. Princess Rowland also learned an unforgettable lesson. She saw with her own eyes that her mother's words were true. A woman's real beauty is in her character. And Chief Rowland at last found peace, knowing he had chosen a wife not for her face or fashion, but for the goodness of her heart. The story ended with joy, but its message lived on forever. Riches may fade, but good character will always open the right doors. Hey, I'm curious. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And while you're at it, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update. Thank you for watching.